That's a really good question around where did I get my love and desire to be, I get really excited when I see New Zealand plants. Like here we've seen a few and I get really excited. Hello. I think partly it's from growing up in a plant nursery, but also, the mere fact that the silver fern is an emblem of New Zealand, like plants within New Zealand and the love of the New Zealand bush is quite a thing for the culture of New Zealanders, I think.
Hey plant fans, we are here today with Lena Robinson of Flora.lishus. Done it again. So I did spend a little while thinking that Lena was called Flora, but in fact Flora.lishus is her... How would you describe it? Your brand, or how would you describe it?
I mean, it literally was started as an Instagram account in order to be able to tap back into nature and my love of horticulture and so forth. I'm coming off the back of quite a few years of some physical chronic illnesses, and I wanted to tap back into my horticultural heritage from my parents, who are both horticulturalists, but I wanted to tap back into nature and use it as an opportunity to find joy again, to get back into nature both from a mental health and a physical movement perspective. So I came up with the idea of Flora.lishus, which is just get out there and share photographs of plants and things that I find out in the world and nature, pretty much.
So it makes you happy, and then the assumption is it will make other people happy.
I'm happy if I'm making other people happy.
We let Lena loose in the Australis polytunnel down at Tom Hartdyke's place, the World Garden at Lullingstone Castle, where Tom collected a lot of the seeds that these plants are grown from himself on his RHS-sponsored trip out there.
Oh, I'm so excited. Look at this. I'm pretending to do my Steve Irwin impression, not really. Kiwi girl here. I'm excited again, another New Zealand native, the Pseudopanax, also known as a lancewood. They are absolutely amazing. They can be quite straight up and down. This one's actually quite bushy, but most of the ones I've ever come across in the New Zealand bush tend to be just one straight stem. But how stunning is this though? Look at that. Oh, I'm trying to bend it and I'll probably break it. Let's not do that. Look at that. Pretty cool. Amazing.
So how widespread are they? Like, how common?
I mean, they're not everywhere. They're still like dotted about, and I think it depends which part of the country you're in. A lot of the bush did get unfortunately destroyed during colonisation and so forth. So sometimes they're kind of more sporadic. You're not going to see them everywhere. But yeah, they're pretty cool, and they can grow really tall as well.
Would any of the New Zealand town councillors ever consider putting them in as a street tree?
I've definitely seen them put into street, it's just like this is just a bush really rather than a tree, because they're not sort of treated like a tree as such, not like the London plains are here or anything like that. But yeah, I've definitely seen them in plantings both in just like parks and towns and things like that, but also definitely in plantings along.
So they are celebrated?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
good.
definitely. They're really cool. I like the architectural shape of them. I think you used the word earlier when we were chatting about them, punk. They're quite punk, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're really cool. I love them.
So you've correctly identified this as the Kauri.
I have.
A Kauri.
It is a Kauri tree. The Kauri tree has a lot of mythological connection to Māori culture. It's kind of like the king of the forest in New Zealand. They grow massive, absolutely beautiful trees. Yeah, pretty.
Like on the top, looks like new growth.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It looks a bit...
Yeah, it's growing quite well, and I love the colours of it because it goes to quite a sort of almost, I don't want to say golden peachy, but almost sort of golden peachy green colour. You can see it in some of these. They go quite orange, and they're not sick. It's just kind of the colour that they go.
I was wondering about that. I thought actually maybe was a bit poorly.
Yeah, no,
actually
pretty happy. It's growing quite nicely. So, but yeah, pretty amazing to have one of those here in England growing. Amazing. Undercover, yeah. I'm loving finding all these New Zealand plants. But yeah, the kauri is beautiful, and it's beautiful wood as well. They will often make a lot of furniture and things out of kauri. It's a really beautiful coloured wood.
Oh, cool. And I understand that you grew up on a plants nursery. So what was it like?
It was amazing, actually. So my mother originally was a florist, but then she met my dad, and my dad was a gardener at Auckland University as a young'un while he was going to university. That was his way of doing it. And I think over time they both decided, they moved from the North Island of New Zealand in Auckland down to the South Island to a rural setting, and it gave them the opportunity to follow their bliss, for want of a better word. So they opened a plant nursery which specialised in propagation and growing of fuchsias and also alpine plants. So they had the combo. And while they were doing that, Dad was also doing garden maintenance, doing landscaping, and some silviculture as well, where he was planting whole hillsides of sustainable forestry in New Zealand. And he also did some designing around something called the Beautiful New Zealand scheme, which in the 80s was about beautifying the motorways of New Zealand and sort of making them both from a noise pollution perspective and just also pollution, how to use plants to sort of help environment. New Zealand was quite far ahead on that. So a funny story that I have to tell about the Cordylines. I was shocked when I came over to the UK to see they're growing absolutely everywhere. I've seen them in gardens, I've seen them in places in like Wales on the hillsides and everywhere. I think this is a Cordyline australis, which is the usual one. And the funny story that I've got to tell is I grew up in a place called Waimete, and they had this, what's called the white horse. It was a big concrete flat on the ground horse, celebrating Shire horses and things. And there used to be these cabbage trees growing up the top of them, the Cordylines, and kids used to snap the flower bits out of the top of them and then sit on them and slide down the horse on the cabbage tree heads. Pretty funny. Don't recommend it. Probably kill the tree, but funny story.
So you use the word silviculture.
Yeah, so silviculture is effectively planting of forestry, really. So it's possibly a New Zealand term, I don't know, but it was effectively him going and spending many hours and days planting whole hillsides and mountains and bush. Some of it was for forestry, so it was sustainable pines and different things like that, but also there was some of it was planting New Zealand natives back into the countryside, which was kind of cool.
Was it actually decorative as well, for the pleasure of people driving along?
The Beautiful New Zealand scheme stuff certainly was, and I know he was doing planting plans and writing documents in order to explain to the people that had the money why we needed to do it from an environmental perspective, but also what the impact was going to be long term on things like erosion and stuff like that. So some of it was functional, some of it was what it looked like. The silviculture specific stuff was sometimes commercial for like sustainable pine forestry, because forestry is a huge part of business in New Zealand, but it was also sometimes just to again to help with erosion of mountainsides and hillsides and that kind of thing, because a lot of both the colonisation of New Zealand, but sometimes also the Māori as well were burning down or cutting down native forestry and native bush and plants. So yeah, part of it was replanting some of that as well.
Where was the nursery located?
So my parents were from Auckland originally, and then in the 70s when I was 3, I think they moved in like 1975 or something, they moved down to South Canterbury in New Zealand, which sort of, if anybody knows New Zealand, sits halfway between sort of Dunedin and Christchurch on the east coast of the South Island. Rural country town called Waimate. Shout out to any Waimate people, probably not many. And it was a rural setting, so we lived on, I think it was about 2.5 acres I think we had. And so my dad was a builder and a woodworker and has lots of different skills. So he effectively built the tunnel houses, built the retaining walls that we had to have all the stuff, because the property went down a little bit, so he built retaining walls to have it all laid out. He built all the shade houses and all of the different elements that they needed to have a functional, not just selling to the public garden centre style nursery, but actually a nursery that was growing and propagating its own plants. So I learned at a very early age how to propagate fuchsias, how to cut them back, how to plant them, and grow them basically.
Yeah. Is this what you feel like has given you a grounding in New Zealand natives, or do you feel like you would have got it organically anyway, just from like living and being born and raised in New Zealand?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if I would have organically done it if my parents weren't into it probably as much. But yeah, I think the impact that my parents had is quite strong, to be fair. Yeah.
Would you say that you spent some time like kind of lapsed in terms of not being that interested and then came back to it?
I took a slightly different direction than my brothers did. So when my parents moved back to the North Island when I was about 16, Dad pretty much with Mum set up a landscaping company that turned out to be one of the biggest landscaping companies in New Zealand, and my brothers worked for them, and I have worked for my parents over the years. But when you are the kind of person like me, I loved reading books and what have you. I was much more of the academic than my brothers. So my brothers went on to work as foremen in my dad's business for many, many years, now successfully, Josh and Shem going on to run their own businesses. But I went down more of the academic route and went down the corporate job route in my career. My brothers stayed in that. But it's funny, one of the things that I tapped back into while the time I was ill and when I was coming back out of it and into recovery, I realised, and my parents are so proud of this, shout out to Margaret and Bruce, they are so excited that I've got reinvigorated around plants and nature again. Like, they didn't think that would ever happen, so.
Shouts to all my lost boys. Shouts to all my lost boys. We rowdy. Shouts to all my lost boys. Shouts to all my lost boys. We rowdy. Shouts to all my